Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the world of Leonardo da Vinci.
Leonardo, an incredible figure.
Absolutely. And we've got a really interesting mix of sources. You shared info from the Chateau du Clos, various biographies, Wikipedia, of course.
Art Story, History.com, even places like Bionity.com and The Guardian. It's quite a collection.
It is. And our mission really is to get beyond just the Mona Lisa.
Definitely.
Yeah.
To unpack the actual person, the polymath behind the famous paintings.
Right. And understand his life, his genius, just for you, our listeners.
And it's staggering when you think about the breadth of it. He wasn't just a painter.
No.
Painter, sculptor, architect, engineer, inventor, scientist, theorist, musician, writer. It's almost hard to believe one person could be all that. The true Renaissance man.
Totally. And those notebooks, something like 13,000 pages, still exist.
Yeah, just filled with sketches, ideas, observations, an amazing window into his mind.
So our goal today is to give you a richer picture, get past the surface stuff.
Okay, so where should we start? His beginnings.
Sounds good. Let's begin at the beginning. Born 1452, Vinci, Italy. And his family situation was a bit unusual for the time, wasn't it?
Right. He was the illegitimate son of a notary, Piero da Vinci, and a peasant woman, Caterina.
And then, mid-1460s, the family moves to Florence.
Which was crucial. Florence back then was this incredible hub of Christian humanist thinking.
A real intellectual melting pot. You have to think that environment, focusing on human potential and classical learning, must have just fueled his curiosity. Right?
Well, undoubtedly. And that's where his formal training really kicks off.
Yeah.
The apprenticeship with Andrea del Verrocchio.
Exactly. He starts around 14 in Verrocchio's workshop, who is a top Florentine artist, painter, sculptor. But the training wasn't just painting. It was, well, incredibly diverse.
Yeah, tell us about that. What kind of skills are we talking about?
Okay, so drafting, chemistry vital for pigments, understanding materials, metallurgy, metalworking, plaster casting, leatherworking, mechanics, woodwork. And then drawing, painting, sculpting, modeling. I mean, the list goes on.
Wow. So he's learning this huge spectrum of crafts. It really embodies that whole Renaissance ideal, doesn't it? Being skilled across disciplines.
It really does. And it paid off. By 1472, he's 20 years old, and he qualifies as a master in the Guild of St. Luke.
Which is basically his professional certification as an artist. A big step.
A very big step. And soon after, he starts getting his own commissions. 1478, an altarpiece for the Palazzo Vecchio.
Okay.
And then 1481, the commission for the Adoration of the Magi. Though, as we know, that one, well, it never got finished.
Yes. A theme we might see again. But then comes a really interesting shift, right? Around 1482, he moves to Milan.
Yeah, this is a major pivot. He goes to Milan looking for work with Duke Ludovico Sforza.
And the way he applied tells you a lot. That famous letter.
Oh, that letter. It's incredible. He basically leads with his engineering and military design skills.
Right. He goes on and on about war machines. He can build cannons, chariots, even like an early machine gun concept.
And painting. It's almost tacked on at the end. Like, oh yeah, I can paint a bit too.
Just screams volumes
Yeah.
about where his real passion lay at that moment, doesn't it? Practical, strategic, how things work.
Definitely. But of course, he did do art for Sforza too. Painter, architect, sculptor. Even designed court festivals, apparently.
Which must have been quite the spectacles. And this first Milanese period gives us some absolutely iconic art.
It really does. You've got the Virgin of the Rocks.
Enigmatic.
And, of course, the Last Supper.
The Last Supper. And his approach there was, well, revolutionary in many ways.
Totally. That use of one-point perspective, for starters, it just pulls you right into the room.
And the moment he chose to capture Jesus, saying someone will betray him, he focused so intensely on the apostles' reactions, their humanity.
But technically, it had issues, didn't it?
Yeah.
His paint choices.
Yeah, that's the tragic part, really. He used oil-based paints on dry plaster, not traditional fresco.
Why did he do that? Experimenting.
Probably experimenting, trying to get richer colors, maybe. But the result was, well, it started deteriorating incredibly quickly. A real shame.
A classic Leonardo move, perhaps. Brilliant idea. Maybe not the most practical long-term execution in that case.
Perhaps. And then there was the other huge Milan project. The Sforza horse. The Grand Cavallo.
Oh, the horse. This was meant to be absolutely colossal, right? A giant bronze equestrian statue.
Monumental. He actually built a full-size clay model. Apparently it was displayed at a wedding in 1493. Can you imagine? 8 meters tall.
Just the engineering challenge of that alone is mind-boggling.
Absolutely. He clearly figured out a lot of the technical problems.
I could never got cast in bronze.
No. War intervened. Sforza needed all the bronze for cannons to defend Milan against the French.
Pragmatic, I guess, but heartbreaking for the art.
And then, insult to injury, when the French did invade in 1499, the soldiers reportedly used the giant clay model for target practice.
Oh, that's just awful.
Yeah. It really highlights that pattern, doesn't it? These grand, ambitious projects getting derailed by external events, war, politics.
It makes you wonder what else might have been. But his journey didn't stop there. His ingenuity kept going.
Not at all. After Sforza was overthrown, he popped up in Venice for a bit around 1500.
Doing what? More art.
Actually, back to engineering. He was working as a military architect and engineer, designing defenses against naval attacks for the Venetians.
Always applying that practical mind.
Then he heads back to Florence, stays there from about 1500 to 1508, hosted by the Servite monks.
And this is when he creates that famous cartoon, right? The Virgin and Child with St. Anne.
And St. John the Baptist. Yes.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just a sketch. It was a full-scale preparatory drawing, and apparently it caused a massive stir.
How so?
People literally flocked to see it. It was described almost like a festival. Huge crowds just coming to gaze at this drawing.
Wow. That really says something about the power of his art, even just in cartoon form.
Doesn't it? Then, a slight detour again, 1502, 1503, he's working for Cesare Borgia.
The Tsar Borgia.
The very same, as a military engineer.
Yeah.
Traveling around, surveying fortifications, drawing up city plans.
Fascinating. And wasn't there some talk about him and Machiavelli having a plan to divert the Arno River?
There was. Another one of those incredibly ambitious engineering ideas applied to strategic problems. Whether it was ever seriously attempted is debated, but the fact they conceived it.
It shows the scale of his thinking. Okay, so after Borgia,
He ends up back in Milan for a second stint, from about 1506 to 1513.
who is his patron this time?
First Charles d'Amboise, the French governor, and then King Louis XII of France himself. He's doing architectural work, running a busy studio.
Right.
But what's really interesting in this period is the renewed focus on his scientific work.
Notebooks again? Anatomy.
Yes, big time. He collaborated with an anatomist, Marcantonio della Torre. This led to incredibly detailed anatomical drawings. He wasn't just drawing surfaces, he was trying to understand the structure, the mechanics.
And comparing humans and animals, too, right? Comparative anatomy.
Exactly. And his notebooks from this time just explode with investigations into everything: mathematics, mechanics, geology, optics, botany.
He was also still working on flying machine concept.
Oh, yeah. Refining those ideas.
Yeah.
And also designing more weapons, like an early machine gun, a giant crossbow.
Mhm.
Things that were, quite advanced for the time, even if never built.
And all this is being recorded in those notebooks in mirror script.
Right, that distinctive right-to-left mirror writing.
Hmm.
Still debated why he did it. Secrecy,
Hmm.
left-handedness, making it easier.
Maybe a bit of both, but it definitely didn't make sharing his scientific findings easy. Which raises the question, why didn't he publish more of this incredible scientific work?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Some think he worried about conflict with the church. Some of his observations, maybe on geology or cosmology, might have seemed heretical.
Okay, that makes sense. Fear of controversy.
Others suggest maybe the notes were just too voluminous, too disorganized in a way. Maybe he never felt they were finished enough for publication. His drive seemed to be more about the discovery itself.
The understanding, not necessarily the broadcasting.
Perhaps. And, echoing earlier events, he gets another commission for a big equestrian statue during this time for Gian Giacomo Trivulzio.
Let me guess. Unfinished.
Unfinished, yes. History repeating itself.
So where does he go next? His final chapters.
Rome. In 1513, he moves to Rome. Patronage from Giuliano de' Medici, the Pope's brother.
Okay, heart of the Renaissance. Big things happening there.
Huge things. But maybe too big. Reports suggest Leonardo wasn't actually that artistically productive in Rome.
Really? Why not?
Well, think about who else was there. Raphael, Michelangelo, both at the height of their powers, getting massive commissions. The competition was intense.
Okay. Maybe overshadowed a bit. Or just focused elsewhere.
Possibly. He definitely continued his anatomical studies, other scientific stuff. But then comes the final move. France, 1516.
Invited by the king himself, Francis III.
Exactly. Francis I was a huge admirer. Gives him this grand title, premier painter and engineer and architect to the king,
Nice title.
and sets him up in the Chateau of Clou, which we now call Clos-Lucé, near the king's own residence.
So what was he doing in France? Painting much?
Seems like less painting, Maybe his final work, St. John the Baptist, was done or finished there. He worked on some landscape plans for the king.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly, it seems he was revered as this great sage. And he and Francis Ayout apparently became quite close.
Very close. There's that famous story, maybe legendary, maybe not, of Francis holding Leonardo in his arms as he died. Wow. When did he pass away?
At Clos-Lucé, May 2nd, 1519. He was 67. Probably a stroke is the general consensus.
And his legacy. So much of it tied up in those notebooks and drawings he left behind. What happened to them?
Crucially, he left them to his favorite pupil, Francesco Melzi.
Okay, so they were kept safe initially.
Yes. Melzi treasured them, kept the collection together. He was incredibly important for preserving all that material.
But after Melzi,
That's when things get complicated. After Melzi died, the collection was sadly broken up, sold off, dispersed, which is why we have pages scattered across different collections today, and why they were never published as the cohesive body of work Leonardo might have intended.
a real loss, in a way. Okay, so we've traced the life. If we step back and try to pull out the main themes, the big takeaways, what really defines Leonardo?
For me, number one has to be that relentless curiosity, that almost obsessive drive to figure out how things work.
Yeah, how nature operates.
Exactly. And his ability to see connections everywhere, like noticing the same branching patterns in trees, rivers, blood vessels. He saw nature as this interconnected system.
And he applied that thinking across the board, didn't he? Art, engineering, the lines were totally blurred for him.
Completely. His inventiveness flowed seamlessly between designing a machine and composing a painting. It was all part of the same quest for understanding and creation.
We also saw that theme of, well, unfinished business. So many ambitious projects left incomplete.
Right. The Sforza horse, the Adoration, the Trivulzio monument, often due to things outside his control, like war or funding drying up.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
What might have been. Yet, even with technical flaws like in The Last Supper, his finished artworks are just monumental. Their impact is undeniable.
Absolutely. And then there are the notebooks. Even unpublished in his time, they're just this incredible treasure. A direct look into that extraordinary mind.
The sheer range of interests is just staggering when you look through them.
It really is. And it connects to that slight mystery around his final resting place, too, doesn't it?
Yeah. In Amboise, he was buried there, but the original church was destroyed.
Right. So the exact spot is uncertain. They found a skeleton in 1863 that's thought to be his, based on some evidence.
What kind of evidence?
Things like a bronze ring found with it, fragments of stone possibly inscribed with parts of his name, the skeleton's stature, even the position of an arm possibly relating to a paralysis he might have had late in life.
And they're doing DNA testing now, trying to confirm it.
There are ongoing efforts, yes, trying to compare DNA with possible descendants or related remains. It shows how fascinated we still are.
It does. And it's interesting, too, how we usually just call him Leonardo.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Da Vinci just means from Vinci, his hometown. It wasn't a family name like we think of it.
So calling him just Leonardo is kind of like, well, like Michelangelo or Raphael. It puts him on that iconic singular level.
Exactly. It reflects his unique status in history.
So wrapping this up, we've journeyed through this incredible life, touched on the sheer breadth of his talents, his dedication to figuring out the world.
And hopefully highlighted some of those aha moments where you see the art, the science, the engineering all connecting. That's where the magic really happens, I think.
It really is. So here's a final thought for everyone listening. Think about Leonardo's approach. That boundless curiosity, the meticulous observation, how he pulled together seemingly separate fields.
How could that maybe inspire you? How might you approach learning or solving problems? By looking for those connections, by refusing to stay in just one lane.
What unified enterprise, as one source put it, could you explore in your own way?
It's definitely something to ponder.
Absolutely. And if we've sparked your interest, please do dive deeper. Check out Clos-Lucé online, look up his paintings, explore digitized versions of his notebooks.
There's so much more to discover about Leonardo.
There really is. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
On a side note, how you can create your own podcast like mine. Here is how.
Ready to bring your podcast to life? Meet the all-new video podcast feature from Visionstory. Now you can turn any two-person audio conversation into a dynamic, visually stunning video podcast. No video editing skills required. Just upload your audio, or drop a link from YouTube or TikTok, trim the best parts, and let the magic begin. Choose your favorite scene, like a sleek studio or cool virtual space. and pick your characters to host the show. Then sit back as our smart AI breaks down your combo, detects who's speaking, and auto-generates a full storyboard, complete with close-ups, mid-shots, and two-person frames. It's like having a pro editor in your pocket. Customize your scenes, swap voices or characters, and toggle between landscape and vertical views with a single click. CR eating content for YouTube and Reels, SC. When you're ready, hit generate and boom. Your video podcast is ready to share with the world in just minutes. PERfect for creators, marketers, and educators. This is storytelling, leveled up. Saint ART transforming your conversations into captivating video podcasts today. Our audience is waiting.